All right, I see we have a couple more people in the waiting room, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our AI Challenge Q&A. We're going to spend the first half of this webinar briefly going over the grants and covering some questions we received over registration, and then we'll be open to new questions in the second half. I'm Selena Burns, a Program Development Officer at the Learning Lab, and I'm managing the AI Challenge RFPs. And with me is our Director, Lark Park, our Deputy Director, Marissa Chung, our Program Manager, Jamie Galvin, and our Program Specialist, Lily Kwan. Before we start, as we mentioned in the chat, we've made a networking spreadsheet for you to use to find collaborators if you need to. Feel free to also use the chat to introduce yourselves and communicate with each other. We'll be using the Q&A feature of Zoom for RFP questions. Please make sure that you specify AI fast or grand or both when you ask us a question through the Q&A feature. And now I'll turn it over to Lark to tell you a little more about the Learning Lab and this grant.
Okay, thanks so much, Selena. Thanks everyone for being here. As Selena mentioned, I'm Lark Park. I'm Director of the California Education Learning Lab. And it's really great to see so much interest in the AI webinar, indicated by how many people have come into the Zoom. So again, welcome. I wanted to provide a little introduction of the Learning Lab as well as some high-level remarks about this challenge before I turn it back over to Selena to talk more specifically about both AI Grand and AI Fast. So Learning Lab, for those of you who are not familiar, we're a state-funded grant-making organization. We're housed in an entity called the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, but we're administered in partnership with the Foundation for California Community Colleges, which is the 501c3 arm for the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office and the entire community college system. But the foundation acts as an administrative sponsor for several higher education programs, and so they also are an administrative entity for the Learning Lab. So our mission is to improve learning outcomes and close equity gaps across California public higher education by incentivizing innovation in teaching and learning. We fund faculty-led projects across the community colleges, the CSUs, and the UCs, and we've done most of our grant making to date in STEM, but we're branching out to other disciplinary areas. And the AI Challenge is discipline agnostic. So as you can see on the slide, we are committed to open educational resources, and the output of our funded projects contributes to the OER available for higher education broadly. And then finally, we're committed to fostering intersegmental collaboration and creating a community across the three segments. And for that reason, we host webinars and convenings, and we create other programming that's dedicated to growing faculty communities across the state. So if we can go to the next slide. Just, a brief slide on our statistics to date. We've committed about $40 million in funding in the 5+ years we've been in operation. And that money has gone to fund 83 projects across 104 institutions of higher education, the vast majority of which are in California. And we have almost 500 faculty leading these 83 projects, but our impact is much bigger. We have almost 6,000 faculty and 87,000 students that have been impacted by Learning Lab projects to date. So why the AI Challenge for us? As I mentioned, we have some key attributes that are important to us. I mentioned intersegmental collaboration, spurring innovation in teaching and learning, and the focus on the creation of an access to OER. But there are two other things that are part of our programmatic DNA, including a focus on the science of learning and leveraging technology tools. And focusing on the science of learning means that we believe that understanding how people learn is really necessary and key to advancing student success. And that really emanates from a core principle of ours, that all students are capable learners, given the right supports, the right tools, the right motivations. So utilizing the science of learning and then contributing to know what we know about learning is important to us as a program. Then leveraging technology tools to understand more about student learning, but also to help scale impact That is something that we like to see in our project teams, and they're part of our grant opportunities and what we communicate about the importance of what should be included and approaches to be included. So I mentioned these things because when ChatGPT burst onto the scene, we quickly realized that AI really stood at the intersection of these two areas of learning and technology in higher education, how it's going to impact learning, what it can reveal about learning, or how it can accelerate learning. And then obviously the use of technology for learning is part of what AI can do for us in higher education. So we really knew right away after ChatGPT sort of became widely available that our next grant making would be in the area of AI. And it's taken us a little while to release the grant opportunity. Many of you may have seen the survey that we put out last fall, but that's all built towards us releasing both AI Grant and AI Fast last month. And with that, I'll turn it over to Selena to talk more specifically about those two grants under the AI Challenge.
Hi, everyone. As Lark said, we have two different kinds of grants, the AI Grand Challenge grants and the AI Fast Challenge grants. And I don't want to repeat a lot of information that you've probably already read in the RFPs or on our websites, but I do want to stress the main differences between the two types of grants. The AI grant must involve at least 2 out of the 3 segments of public higher education in California. So the UCs, the CSUs, and the California community colleges. You need at least 2 out of 3 collaborating for an AI grant. The AI grant projects are larger in scope in terms of the size of the grants and the duration. Grant projects should be big projects with a big impact. Fast can be more lab testing. AI grant will be decided by a full selection committee and has a single submission date. And AI Fast will be rolling with a faster selection process with 2 committee members giving recommendations to fund or not fund. There'll be an eligibility screening first, including whether you've included all the required parts of your proposal and you're aligned with Learning Lab grant goals. Keep in mind that these are teaching and learning grants, and that the funds are directed towards supporting higher education in the public California system. It's fantastic if your project supports other populations too. You can certainly work with high schools and private institutions and community organizations and industry if it makes sense, but do keep in mind what the primary goal of the funds are. So this is the milestones of the AI grant at a glance. If you want to apply, you must submit a statement of intent on June 7th. The statements of intent are very quick and easy, and then the proposal itself is due in September. You can't submit a proposal if we did not receive a statement of intent first. The committee will review proposals in October and send questions to most, if not all, applicants, and we hope to be able to announce awards by November. In contrast, the FAST grants are rolling and can be as quick as 11 weeks between the statement of intent submission and decision notification, with about another month to get the contract in place. Though you can submit your proposal as soon as 3 weeks after your statement of intent. You don't have to. You can take longer to write your proposal if you want to. We do have 4 tracks for the grants, and they're the same tracks for the FAST and the grant. Which track you apply in will not in any way impact whether or not you get the grant. These categories are meant to spark ideas, and examples of possible projects are in the RFPs just to help you get a sense of what kinds of projects would fit in each track and the potential size and scope difference between FAST and grant. Some of you have asked what makes a strong proposal. We have tips for a strong proposal on the Grand and FAST websites and also in the Grand RFP. If you want even more guidance, we'll release rubrics on June 14th, but these rubrics will reflect what is in the RFPs. So reading the RFPs carefully should be a good guide. Also, keep in mind the mission of the Learning Lab that Lark explained earlier, and that we value innovation, collaboration, potential for a wide impact through OER. We have a variety of resources available to help you with planning your assessment, with creating a logic model, with understanding OER and accessibility requirements, for helping you select an AI vendor if you need one, for helping you decide what you need to talk about in your ethics discussion, and for budget creation. Please spend some time looking at our resource page. Budget templates are available now. We will add budget samples next Friday, and then the rubrics are coming on the 14th. And make sure you check regularly for updates to the FAQ. So we got a few questions about application and eligibility as part of the webinar registration, and I just wanted to cover a few that came up more than once. So the first, how many PIs can we have? There's no limit, but think about what makes sense. A PI is leading a project, so it may make sense to have multiple PIs when you have collaborating institutions or a complex project needing different expertise. Can staff apply? Yes, if they're full-time staff working with faculty or students, like the director of a teaching and learning center, you can be a PI. Can institutions apply for multiple grants? Yes, details can be found in the FAQ about this, but keep in mind that the selection committee may consider geographic distribution, so you may be competing against your colleagues. Be thoughtful about if collaboration might make sense. Can one person be involved in more than one proposal? You can be involved, yes, as supporting staff if you're in a role where that makes sense, but we don't want, for example, the same PI on 2 FAST grants. If you have multiple ideas for a FAST grant, you're going to have to pick one. There may be more flexibility for if you're applying to a grant and a FAST, depending on how different the projects are and who your collaborators are and what your role is. Who should my letters of recommendation be from for a FAST grant? The first one needs to be from your institution, from your UC, CSU, or community college, whoever you report to, and the second one can be from anyone. And does every part of the project need to be OER? Ideally, yes, but we recognize that sometimes projects are coming in already based off platforms that involve some kind of fee, and this may particularly be true for these AI projects. So as much as possible of what you produce using these funds should be OER, but we understand it's not always going to be everything. And do I need to have an IRB review done before receiving funding? This is true of some federal grants. No, but you do need to follow any institutional regulations and federal regulations that require IRBs for research with human subjects. Make sure you've built sufficient time into your timeline for an IRB review. And this is often more time than you think you need. If you're a community college that has no IRB and you're doing research with human subjects, you can include funding for an external IRB in your budget. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to talk about statements of intent and budgets.
Thanks, Selena. Hi, everybody. So just quickly, I just wanted to mention where to find the link to the statement of intent. You can find the link on either webpage, the AI Grand Challenge and the AI Fast Challenge, as you can see. With the example on the slide. Just a quick note that there are 2 different statement of intent forms depending on which opportunity that you are applying to. So again, just use the link on the appropriate web page. Once you click the link, you will be led to Submittable, where you will either create a new account or use an existing account. And from there, you will log in and begin your application. Please be very careful in selecting the submitter for your statement of intent. The individual that submits the statement of intent form is going to be the individual that receives submission confirmations, invitations to future stages of the grant opportunity that include link to further forms like the proposal form, for example. And that account will be the account that, again, receives this messaging and is going to be submitting these future applications. If you'll allow me to share my screen, I'll quickly do a quick budget template overview. As Selena mentioned, the budget templates are now available on each web page. Again, there's different web pages per opportunity with different links to the statement of intent forms, but there's also different budget templates to be used. So I'm going to start by just quickly showing the AI Grand budget template and some key highlights. On a global note, so there's the instructions tab to begin with, but on a global note, as you work your way through the tabs, any cells that are highlighted in yellow are going to indicate that a response is required. Cells that are white, blue, green, etc. are locked. They have formulas within, but again, you'll just focus on the yellow ones. Tab A is really a composite tab. It's filled with information that's going to be pulled over from the data that you enter in tabs B through E. I think that's all I'll say about tab A. Tabs B through E, these are the justification tabs where you're going to provide more detail about all of the expenses included in your budget. Each tab is for each institution involved in the project. One quick highlight is the personnel section. One thing that we see a lot is that stipends are included in personnel budgets. Stipends I'm talking about for faculty participation in professional development, or stipends for student ambassadors or for student tutors. And that's kind of one kind of common thing I wanted to address that would be included in the other direct costs category. But otherwise, I'll leave it to you guys to read the instructions and provide the justifications. Please do provide a lot of detail in your justifications, and you can always refer to our sample to understand what kind of level of detail we're looking for in the justification sections. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention those couple of things about the AI grand budget template. I'll quickly walk us over to the AI fast template, and a lot of what I said about the grand template applies here as well, but the template is just a bit more streamlined for our fast applicants. Again, the bright yellows indicate that your response or input is required. You'll see the top table is a composite table that includes host and subaward expenses. And if your project does have subawards, there's information to be included for them below that table. On the right side of any given table, you're going to break down the expenses for personnel and other direct costs, otherwise known as ODC. And the detail you include in these tables is going to be fed into the table on the left side. I think that's it. Again, just a reminder that the cell size might be small, but that's not to indicate that we're not looking for plenty of detail here. And again, refer to the sample. Those will be live next week, as Selena mentioned, to kind of see exactly what level of detail we're looking for. A couple final notes. Overall, please use Excel to work in these templates, as some of the features just don't convert well to Google Sheets. And the last thing I'll say is if your project needs more personnel or needs additional subawardees that the template's just not built with at this time, please reach out to Learning Lab by emailing us at info@calearninglab.org so that we can make the accommodations for you. But that's it. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A.
All right, I'm gonna answer some questions that I see coming up in the Q&A. We're going to be answering some of them live and some of them within the Q&A, so please keep an eye on it. I have a couple of questions regarding the FAST. Is this a two-part proposal? By that, do I mean, will we get an invite after the letter of intent? No. If you don't hear from us, you can assume that you are good to go with putting in a proposal. We'll let you know that your statement of intent has been received, but you won't get a separate invitation. What we will do is we'll use it to screen out if there seems to be something really off, where there's something that's misaligned with the requirements of the grants. But otherwise, we won't be screening for anything else besides that. You can assume that you're okay if you haven't heard from us. And can you please explain about OER? OER is an open educational resource, and it is a type of copyright licensing that makes your work available to others to use for free or for low cost. And if you want more information about that, we actually have a lot of guidance in our resources. So if you go to our resources tab, we have both a guide to what OER is and what our expectations are at the Learning Lab, and we also have a webinar that you can look at. And I'm sure we have a lot of experts right now in our audience who could give you more information in chat. For the IRB, if a CSU obtained IRB approval, does a community college partner also need to get IRB approval? yes, if you're doing research with students and some of your students that you're doing research with or with faculty are at the community college, it's pretty typical that your community college is also going to want you to get approval from them. And sometimes that can involve doing separate IRB applications to the CSU and the community college, but often you can get one of the two you can get the community college to agree to let the CSU be the IRB for all of the institutions involved. Is there a sample or rubric for the statement of intent? You won't need one. The statement of intent is very simple. It's just asking you who's involved in the project. You'll just have to do, it's basically an abstract of what your project is going to be. We really just want to get a count. We want to get a sense of how many applications that we are getting in and what those applications, what those proposals are going to be about. So it's, again, you won't be screened out based on anything except if there's a major misalignment, right? These are teaching and learning grants. If it's not about teaching and learning, we may contact you and say, hey, can we talk about your statement of intent? But otherwise, it's really just for us to get a count.
And that was my question. Is it all right if I ask a little bit further on that?
Sure.
Do you have a length recommendation? Is this supposed to be 1 page or 2 pages?
It's actually an online system, so I think we have a word count limit. It's really about the size of an abstract, like, 250 words. Jamie, do you remember what word count we had for the abstract?
I think you're spot on. I think it was about 250, yeah.
Okay, so and the focus should be about what the project is, less about the institutional details and the budgeting information.
Right. No, all of budgeting, that'll come in your main proposal.
You will include information about the institutions that you anticipate to be involved, but just in terms of name. But yeah, the details about budget come later.
Great. Thank you very much.
When you mention staff can apply, do you mean that staff members can apply as the leading principal investigator? Yes, you can be the PI if you are a staff member who is full-time and you are working with students and with faculty. So as I said, someone like a director of a teaching and learning center, that's someone who's working full-time with faculty, with students, is often doing a lot related to AI in that role, and you would be able to apply as the PI, yes. Does each institution in a 2 intersegmental partnership collaboration project need to submit 2 letters of recommendations? Oh, Jamie's gonna answer that one in chat. But keep in mind that the FAST and the grant requirements are different in terms of what kind of letters that you need and from whom. What kind of expertise is assumed, expected, or required? We don't, I mean, your expertise, as with any grant, you should show that you're qualified for this grant, and you should make sure that you build a team that is qualified to do the work that you are going to do. So we don't have specific expectations of what those qualifications have to be, but it's just like applying to any other grant that you're going to do. You want to show that you have the expertise available to do what you're saying that you're going to do. And again, we're really supportive of collaboration. So think about if you have expertise in a particular area, but you could use someone with expertise in another area. Is there someone that you could collaborate with that could be brought onto the project and bring that to the table? Can you clarify the meaning of intersegmental? So the three segments are University of California, the CSUs, the UCs, and the California community colleges. Those are the three segments. And so when we say intersegmental, there needs to be a collaboration between at least two of those segments. And that, again, that's only for the Grand Challenge. The Grand Challenge has the intersegmental requirement, and the Fast Challenge does not. For the Fast Challenge, the letter of intent doesn't have to be submitted on June 7th, as long as it's received 3 weeks prior to the proposal and before October 10th. That is correct. Fast is rolling. And so your statement of intent has to be in 3 weeks before your proposals. We are open for statement of intent. So for the Grand, your statement of intent has to be in by the 7th. But for the Fast, that's the first date in which you can give a statement of intent. You can give a statement of intent anytime during that rolling period between the 7th and October 10th. Keep in mind that that these grants are until funds are exhausted. So there may be some benefit in applying earlier rather than later.
Selena, I think there was a question about how much total funding there would be for AI Fast.
How much? Oh, go ahead, Lark.
So is that per grant? Is the question per grant, or is the question our overall funding?
The question, I believe, was about overall funding.
Yeah. So we are hoping to make up to 25 awards. And we'll have to see whether, that is a goal that we can meet, given some of the other funding obligations that we want to make. But that was, I think, overall our hope to award up to 25 AI Fast grants.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, I am not sure of the protocol. One is a minor question. It's in addition to the diversity and intersegmental requirement, do you need geographic diversity? I'm from San Diego. We have all the segments with a lot of diversity here. Do we need to go beyond San Diego?
You don't. It can be a regional collaboration. It can be sometimes it makes a lot of sense to collaborate with regional community colleges. So it really depends on the grant. Certainly some grants may be what they want to do. It makes sense for them to have collaborators from across the state, and for other projects, it may make sense to be a regional collaboration.
So one high level question, what kind of impact would you like to make with this Grand Challenge project, AI Challenge project? If you can give us some vision of what you would like to accomplish, that might help us.
Lark, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think the tracks, except for the description of the wildcard track, which is, come up with your own idea. But the tracks are meant to indicate sort of what it is that we're trying to value out of this AI challenge in terms of the kinds of projects that we see, and the funds that are awarded, the projects that are awarded. And they were really in three categories, right? One of them was about understanding essential skills, knowledge, etc. And another one was ways to accelerate the learning process. And a third was really trying to focus on authenticity, accuracy assessment in terms of the kinds of challenges that AI posed that we needed to hopefully create some structure around understanding. So I would say look to the tracks to understand what is our goal. We want to create more understanding in these categories, and we want to have some models for how to do we want to create some models for how to productively, constructively use AI for the benefit of teaching and learning. So that's sort of the top line. And then I think the tracks are more indicative of the kinds of things that we're interested in learning.
Okay, thank you.
Can you please comment on potential partnerships with K-12 collaborators? So again, keeping in mind that the funds from the state are to support teaching and learning in higher education, we're also aware that there's a relationship between high school preparation and college, and that we have currently a lot of high school students who are taking college classes through dual enrollment. So we've had grants before that have had high school partnerships. It's about really explaining how the project as a whole and how the involvement of the K-12 partner is supporting higher education teaching and learning. Lark, is there anything you want to add to that? No?
Selena, why don't we go to Allison Mona's question?
If our institution is already involved in another unpaid AI institute, can we use that to apply for this FAST Grand Challenge to compensate for the work being done there? I would say that the nature of these grants they're not to pay for a project that you're doing somewhere else. This is really designing a project for the purposes of this grant. You could certainly expand on it or build on it, but the nature of the grant isn't to compensate you for work that you happen to be doing somewhere else. You should really be thinking about these grants as the grants themselves. But again, that doesn't mean that you can't build on work that you're doing. Lark, do you have anything you'd want to add to that?
No, I think you've covered it pretty succinctly.
Is it a plus if teams include collaboration across geographic regions? Yes, I mean, we certainly are looking to support the state of California as a whole. So it's certainly a great thing if you've designed a project where you're having impact across regions. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize that there's also a lot of value in regional projects and in regional collaborations. So again, think about what makes sense for your project. We've had both types of projects get funded in the past.
And if I could add, just because of the experience of our data science grant challenge, which was the last grant opportunity that we had released and awarded under, there were some pretty ambitious projects in terms of number of partners and in terms of the geographic region covered. But just be aware when selection committee members look at those projects, they really look for cohesiveness. They look for ability to execute, and the bigger your project is, the more partners that are involved, the more you really need to pay attention and demonstrate that you understand the complexities of running a multi-institutional project that spans like a decent amount, a large region. So I would just caution, like, don't just put it in for the sake of putting it in, but really demonstrate that you know what that complexity means.
Could expertise be demonstrated via a demo of part of the proposed functionality made available at the time of application? I don't see why you couldn't have a link, but just, selection committee members' time is limited. So, to the best of your ability, make sure that you've explained things in your proposals.
Sure, understood. Thank you. I'm just looking for clarity because since it's a new topic, right? Being able to say, unless you're able to say, I worked on other AI projects, I don't know what other means you would have to show that you've had expertise to contribute.
Yeah, you can certainly describe your experience, describe your skills. You can have links or descriptions to the types of projects that you've done already or to a portfolio. There will be a part of the application where you'll be explaining your expertise. So if it makes sense to have a link to something external, you can do it. I can't promise that the selection committee members are going to follow every link.
Thank you.
Will it be looked upon favorably, to build on work already done or something completely new? There's a lot of work started but not scaled. Oh, Jamie's answering, but the quick answer is that either one. You can build off something existing and scale it up, or you can propose something new.
I had a question that was similar. Should we?
Sure.
So if we've already started to incorporate or start using some of the chat bots or maybe generating AI art to actually use in projects, should we give you a partial report back on what we've done so far? So if we have data collected from our students and things like that on their experience,
I think it could
work.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're going to have limited pages for your proposals. So you'll have to think about how you're best going to sell your project, but certainly showing that you've had some successful implementation already, and then, really thinking about what it is you want to accomplish with this additional grant money, and also how you're going to contribute to our knowledge of the science of teaching and learning, right? That's a huge part of our mission at the Learning Lab, and we would love to get more information and data about how well these AI tools are working or not working. So again, you've got a limited number of pages in your proposal, and you can certainly build into that a description of what you've accomplished and what you hope to accomplish, or even in your logic model, if it makes sense to have it in there. When you're talking about what resources you are coming in with already in your logic model. Is the program interested in activities related to teaching students data analysis using AI techniques? Yes, we're interested in, this is across disciplines. Unlike some of our previous grants, which have been focused on specific disciplines, this is really, we're interested in looking across all disciplines or within specific disciplines on how AI might be supporting or changing teaching and learning. So take a look at the tracks and where you think your project fits in.
Selena, there's a question. I'm just going to read it out for you. So it's probably not possible or not a good idea to submit the same project, just scaled differently, for Grand and Fast. That is 3 partners on Fast and 6 or more on Grand. Instead, just pick one.
I would say just pick one. Yes.
There's another question, and I'm sorry if this was answered already, but from Allison Mona, if our institution is already involved in another unpaid AI institute, can we?
That's already been answered.
Covered? I'm sorry about that. Okay. Another one just came in. So one person cannot be PI for a few projects. Could one individual be co-PI for multiple projects?
You can't be a PI for a few projects, no. If you are applying to FAST, for example, then we expect you to pick your best idea and apply with that. Co-PI, Lark, I'll let you answer that.
The question is, can you be a co-PI on multiple grants?
Co-PI, yes. They asked PI or PI. PI, I've said no. Not if it's the same type of grant, not if you are applying as a PI to multiple FAST or multiple grant, and they want to know about co-PI.
Right. It's not going to be a strict limitation, like if you have a colleague who wants to, you to be a partner on an application, and a different colleague that wants you to be a partner on their application. But there's sort of a practicality to it, is in the event that both get awarded, if you don't have the time to actually serve in both capacity. So we would ask that you really only commit to serving on grant applications that you fully intend, to be able to serve on if it gets awarded. Because we sort of discourage what ends up being too much bait and switch, right? In terms of, let's put these people on, on the application, but then when things, when it comes time to start the project, oh, you're committed to other things. So because the selection committee really does look at what is the team, who's actually going to be working on it. And then so it becomes a disservice, honestly, to the whole application process if you can't, if you can't really commit with intent. So I would say be choosy in what you put your name on in terms of putting yourself out to be part of a grant application team.
There's another question in the Q&A. Is the program interested in activities related to teaching students how to use AI to do data analysis?
So I tried to answer that question. Do you want to, Chen Li, do you want to hop on audio and explain what you mean by that?
Sure. Can you see me and hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, sorry, my question was a little bit unclear. My question was, we have some activities about teaching students the skills related to using AI to do data science. We can also use AI to do teaching, but it's more about teaching students how to use AI to do data science. I wonder whether these kind of activities fit into the scope of this program.
So that seems exactly what this program covers. But I think if you look at tracks one or track two. Like track one talks about even beyond just looking at it in a specific classroom, thinking, you know, if it were math or if it were writing, how might the way that you taught or what you taught change if you were using AI in the classroom, if you were teaching beginning writing and AI was part of how you were teaching, if you were teaching, you know, calculus and AI is part of what you're teaching, how are the requirements potentially different? How's the syllabus potentially different? So data science, you know, it would be the same thing. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, AI plays two roles here. One is it can be used to make teaching more effective by providing a lot of functionalities. The other one is we can include AI into the curriculum to teach students how to use AI to do their data science. I mean, both aspects are suitable for this program. That's my understanding. Okay.
And so what you described, your first example would be more of a track two. And it sounds like what you're talking about is more of a track one, where if you look at track one, some of our questions is, you know, how might the curriculum change if you were using AI? So kind of similar to thinking about, you know, if back when calculators first started becoming popular, beginning math teachers thought about what if everybody had a calculator and how can we teach students how to best use the calculator and what do we need to teach them apart from that? I think it's similar. I mean, say that you're teaching a statistics class and you have SPSS, right? That's certainly something that was thought about. What do you need to know independent from using SPSS? And then how can you also teach how to do statistics using SPSS? I think that those are questions that we're very interested in for track one when it comes to AI. Does that help?
Yeah, it helps. Now, question already asked earlier, does one proposal have to fit into one track or it can fit into multiple tracks?
So the wild card is a good place for multiple tracks. If it fits best into one track, you can pick that track. But if it seems like it's pretty even with multiple tracks, you can use the wild card. And
okay.
And again, it's not that we have X number of grants for each track. It won't impact whether or not you get funded at all.
Okay, thank you for your answers.
A few more questions are in the Q&A, Selena.
Are there ones you want to lift and read out loud, Jamie? I'm trying to scroll through.
Sure. So Michelle asked, does the teaching and learning need to occur in the classroom?
No, as you know, as Lark discussed, a lot of what we fund at the Learning Lab is online teaching, and so yeah, if that's what you're referring to when you talk about out of the classroom is online teaching, then no. But if you want to clarify that you meant something else, if you could just either hop on to audio or.
Yes, I did. Thank you. I did not mean online. I meant outside of a class section.
Can you give an example?
Maybe it's a workshop or some digital learning that's just being offered for students at any time that isn't associated with a particular class.
Yes, that sounds like it potentially like an AI literacy project, which
could be.
I think it's track 3, right? Then yes.
Thank you.
Selena, there have been some questions coming through the chat that I'm just going to lift up. Would the focus of teaching students how to use AI in their broader educational goals be an appropriate area for this funding?
With the purpose of teaching students how to use AI in their broader educational.
they already use it, right? We already know this. Whether or not they tell us or not is you know. But I'm saying, would it be if I was teaching how to use it ethically or use it effectively, or what the best tools are, how they could use it in broader, how to learn, study, things like that? Would that be appropriate if I focused it on my class? Because we teach humanities, social science, and art majors, and the class before was intended to teach them how to use like the web, like you talked about the calculator example. So it's how to use the web, how to be more effective, and really, I think there needs to be some guidance to how to use these tools, right? Otherwise, it's just the wild, wild west. They go out and use a chat bot. I know some students will turn in essays and things like that when it's like an hour to go to turn things in. So would it be an appropriate area where I would actually teach them how to use different tools, whether it's a chat bot or whether it's artificial intelligence art or whether it's whatever for my class for web development or things like that. Talk about the teach them how to use it structured in a structured way, teach them the best ways to use it so they get good results, teach them how to check things like authoritative resources and stuff like that. Would that be appropriate or no?
Yes, but
Yeah.
I would also say,
Yeah.
I would also say that think about what the larger impact would be outside of your classroom. So when we talk
Exactly.
about why we ask that things be licensed as OER, as open educational resources, the idea is that whatever's done or created with these funds is going to be useful beyond a particular classroom. And so are there things that you can create, syllabi, course materials, is there a working group that you want to put together to discuss some of these ideas and outline some policies?
sense.
Think about, it's great to test things in your classroom, but also what's the bigger picture? How can you contribute to both our understanding of how students are interacting and using AI and what the relationship, is with it from a research point of view, and then from a product point of view, are there things that you can create and share out that are useful to others as well? And also always be on the lookout, as with any kind of research or project you do, what's already out there. Are you aware of what's already out there? Are you building on it as opposed to creating something from scratch that's already there?
Yeah, just to add to Selena's points, whether it's for AI Fast or AI Grand, we are looking for what are we getting out of this? What are we trying to learn from funding your project, right? So you really ought to kind of have a frame of, like what data do you want to collect? What's your theory of change here? What are you trying to impact with your students? And that will help us understand then the effectiveness, right, of whatever approach that you're taking. And hopefully you'll be measuring it and we'll understand its effectiveness. And then again, Selena mentioned the resources that you may develop will be open educational resources. And then we can turn around to the rest of the community to highlight what it is that you have done and what results have yielded from your project.
So if we're going to move on, I know we only have 4 more minutes, but there was a question that came through the chat from Merritt. And I'm wondering if Merritt can, that someone else, Anna, piggybacked on in the Q&A. I'm wondering if Merritt, you can come off mute and maybe speak to your question.
Yeah, it's just, I know that OER, we often think of as open access textbooks and so on. But the fact is there are a lot of pedagogical tools being developed that involve, LLMs that you have to pay for, and I'm just wondering how that fits into your emphasis on OER, because it's very, we can share the curriculum that we develop openly, but it's very difficult to, build in a tool that would be open access to everyone because these tools are proprietary.
So my answer would be to first see if there's an equivalent OER tool out there that you can build on. Because if there is a good one out there, then that's obviously going to be a preference. So for example, if you've been to the LibreText site. They have a lot of great platforms for things like homework problem sets and interactive visualizations. There are a lot of great OER tools out there. If there isn't, then you want to be, as you said, making as much of what you can of what you built OER. And maybe it's not everything, but if you can make the curriculum available, whatever you can make available as OER. But definitely first check and make sure before choosing some kind of platform that is paid, make sure there isn't something out there that is just as good that isn't a paid platform.
Yeah, and we understand that you're going to be looking at vendors, and we do have, I want to remind everybody that we do have this vendor selection guidance document. It's part of the resources page on both AI Grant and AI Fast, and it really asks you to consider a multitude of criteria before choosing a vendor to work with or choosing a vendor for your project. Thanks.
Lark, I may have you answer this one. Can creating an AI pathway to help students keep track and know credits for transfer, is that an option for this program? Would we consider that to fall under teaching and learning?
Potentially, yes. Potentially, yes. I think we want to know a little bit more about it. So if whoever asked can send that directly to the email account, we can have maybe a little bit more of a dialogue on the nature of that project.
All right, we are at almost at time, and we can stay on for maybe another 10 minutes to answer questions. But we did want to, before most of you left, we wanted to, Lily, if you can move the slides. We wanted to let you know that our next event is a webinar, a part of our series, Forging a Path for AI in Education. Session 1, Notes from the Field. So it is part of our intention is to help create community around AI and let you know what professors faculty across California or staff across California are doing with AI in their classrooms and in their institutions. I know that some of the folks who are going to be involved in this webinar are on with us right now. So feel free to say hello. And if you are applying to a Grand Challenge grant, again, you will get credit for attending these webinars. And then we also have our info@ email account. If you have questions that you want to ask us, we will be sending a recording of the webinar and an updated FAQ in about a week. If you need to leave now, you're welcome to. We'll try to stay on for just a couple more minutes to get some of those last few questions answered. And thank you everyone for coming. We're very excited about your.
May I ask a question over audio?
Sure.
You said that the recording would be made available. Do you know where that will be made available?
Lily, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we will be sending it out in the email listserv. If you've signed up to our AI listserv, you will get it. We will also link it on our website. So you'll get notified via email, and you'll get it in the email as well as the website.
Because I just wanted to make sure I wanted to share this with some of my collaborators. Pointing them to the website would be the place to go.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank
May
you.
I ask a question too? This is Barbara Alowski. The links, we can't click on those links that are on the slide deck. So for the August 11th, can you put the registration link in the chat, please?
For the May 31st webinar?
If you go back a couple of slides. Right there. It said register here, but we can't click on it.
It's August 11th.
August 11th.
Why is it? So yeah, sorry. It's
May 31st.
31st.
Okay, could you still put the link in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Learning labs looks like a good opportunity.
We'll also send it out over the AI listserv. If you haven't signed up for that, please do, because that is where we'll be sending all updates about the AI RFPs, about the webinars.
Do you think you have time to address my question instead of sending the email?
Can you say what your question is? Do you want to just say it early?
Yes, to create like pathways to help students with the transfers from community college to CSUs and UCs.
Oh, so Lark answered that and said that maybe our grants are teaching and learning focused, so we would need more information about it. And she suggested that if you could send more details to us, we may be able to better answer it.
Okay. Thank you.
And this possibly it could scale to different platforms at different cost, e.g. 3.5 for free versus 4.0 paid for Chat GTP. What's the question? Is the question whether we would fund that if you wanted to?
Sorry, no. Should have been a comment, reply to the one above it. Someone
it.
was asking about pay because GPT-4, I believe, is $20 a month. The 3.5 is free. So, you know, if you could develop something that could be used with either platform, obviously better results on 4.0.
Right.
You know, the 3.5 would be free if someone didn't have budget for student accounts. That's all I was saying.
Right. Yeah. And from a research point of view, I mean, it would be interesting to know if one was significantly more effective than the other.
Well, and the 4.0 probably will become free in June or July when 5.0 becomes live. Because 5.0 is supposed to come live very, very soon.
Have we missed any questions? If you sent a question, we didn't answer it, you can feel free to unmute and ask. All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for coming. We're so excited to have this much interest in our grants, and we look forward to reading your statements of intent and proposals soon.